Hey everybody, welcome in, welcome in, welcome to Conversations with Christy. How are you guys doing? I am so excited today to have Karena here, and we are going to talk about how to work with the energies, those difficult energies, and what we can do to make life easier for us. I think this is such an important topic because seriously, it can be really difficult. And when you're in that kind of a situation, you can look at things and go, how do I manage this? What do I do with this? What does it look like? Because we do have some difficult energies that are coming up soon with Mercury goes retrograde and Mars and everything else. So why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of some of the energy that's coming up and what we can do to really work with it in a more constructive way? Because I'm excited to hear this.
Absolutely. And I almost feel like I need to start by backing up. I was going to say a little bit, but it might even be a lot. We'll see. But this feels kind of important when we're
Yeah.
talking about the deep Plutonian level energies. Um,
Hmm.
there's kind of this sense among most astrologers, not all astrologers, but most astrologers, that the time at which planets were discovered sort of
Hmm.
is indicative of the energy of the collective of society is now ready to kind of consciously deal with those energies. Of course, Pluto's
Oh,
always existed, Uranus has always
right.
existed, Neptune's always existed, but it wasn't until humans developed telescopes that they could see those planets. Before that, Saturn, as far as the ancients knew, was the furthest planet away from the sun and the slowest moving planet. And
Mm,
so, we could talk about Uranus and Neptune another time, but there were very distinct energies going on in the world at the time those were discovered. And with
right.
Pluto, it was discovered in 1930. And um, there was a lot happening then from like a the little can become big perspective.
Oh, yeah.
This was during like the development of the atomic bomb and this sense of like,
Hmm.
oh, there's like this teeny little itty bitty microscopic atom that can have this unbelievably huge effect. And
Right.
even this sense of the energy that is captured within atoms
Hmm.
can be transformed and released and turn into these giant, mushroom clouds and just huge explosions.
Yeah.
Um, and this was around the time when Pluto was being discovered.
Mm.
Um, and it's also interesting that Pluto itself was discovered by a young guy who did not have any formal astronomical training, and he was just very interested in telescopes. He was very interested in the sky. He
Uh-huh.
was a farm boy from Kansas, and he
Ah.
discovered Pluto. And then scientists were like, "What?" And so again, there's that sense of kind of the unlikely person who is not
Mhm.
trained and hasn't been through years of formal schooling, and wow, they transform our understanding of the cosmos in a second. And
Right.
so
Right.
all of this is sort of, keep all of this in mind as we talk about
Uh-huh.
Plutonian energy. And then Pluto, um, from a mythological standpoint, Pluto was
Mm.
the lord of the underworld.
Right.
Um, and so there is this sense of someone who is very powerful, but who
Hmm.
dwells in darkness and
Hmm.
who is comfortable in the place of the dead and
Hmm.
doesn't require the sun, to be happy,
Hmm.
to, exist.
Right.
And so there's this, yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy of there's an incredible amount of power we might think that, like, with us, for example, if we were to just get all of this power, we might choose to go sit on a beach somewhere and soak up the sun. We probably wouldn't choose to go and live underground and be in the underworld, but there
Right.
is this sense of Pluto. So if
You
we need
keep
to,
talking. I'm going to deal with them. I'll be right back.
okay, of course. Um, So there is this sense in which there's a great amount of power and options, but at the same time, feeling comfortable being in this deeper, darker space, the underworld. And so, again, keeping all of this in mind, um, and then there are quite a few, of course, myths around Pluto. One of the most famous ones is Pluto slash Hades. He was also known by the name of Hades. Pluto's abduction of Persephone, and he brought her down into the underworld with him. Depending on the myth, uh, there are many different forms of this myth, but in some of the myths, he very clearly abducted her. In others, she had love for him, um, and was willing to stay in the underworld. Regardless, what ends up happening is that Persephone spends half of the year above the earth in the land of the
Mhm.
living and half of the year underground in the land of the darkness, the underworld.
Yes.
And so there is this sense also of Pluto as kind of a figure who is comfortable being in the underworld themselves, and then
Mhm.
also brings others to that place, sort of escorts and brings others to that place. Um,
Mhm.
and if we think about, this figure of Persephone, again, the myths are not clear as far as exactly how willing she was to go underground versus how much of an abduction it was. But
Right.
there's this sense that for all of us, the underworld can be kind of a scary place. And oftentimes,
Sure.
when we find ourselves dealing with that underworld energy, it is not by choice. It is because
Right.
we have been through life experiences and some pretty gnarly stuff. And so we
Mhm.
sort of find ourselves at the gates of the proverbial underworld, ready to do some deep work. Um, Not excited about it, not loving it, but just like, okay, this is where we are. So there is
Right.
almost this sense of us as the Persephone figure where we are kind of escorted to the underworld, probably not loving every second of it. But as we see in how the myth plays out with Persephone, Persephone ends up spending half of the year there. So
Yes.
there's some kind of a truce, at least, that Persephone makes with the underworld.
Right.
And so when I think about Plutonian energy, I do generally subscribe to the idea that planets and asteroids are discovered when the collective energy is right to consciously experience them and explore them. And if we
Right.
think about all of recorded human history, people have suffered so many traumas on
Yeah.
almost every level. Life has
Mhm.
not been easy for many species, definitely not for humans either. There's
Right.
been war, there's been so much, this kingdom conquers that kingdom. People get
Right.
killed, and there are just so many terrible things that happen. And most of those people did not have an opportunity to really heal from those experiences. It was like life is hard. You don't get to sit and, do your inner work and heal. Life is hard, and it's always hard, and it's always traumatic. And so there is
Yeah.
this sense of around the 1930s, we were reaching a place in human civilization and evolution where
Mhm.
obviously, there are still difficult times. We are not
Yeah.
into the pure sitting on a beach forever
Right.
world. But a lot of us have more space to do inner work and to
Mhm,
look back at things that have traumatized us in the past and
mhm.
actually process those and integrate those and learn from those. And so
And
this really is the Plutonian energy because I almost feel like before approximately 100 years
mhm,
ago, humans didn't have time or space to heal. Life was about more about survival and just like dealing
right.
with things and whatever coping mechanisms you had. Not for
Mhm.
everyone, of course. There have always been a few
Right,
privileged
right.
people, but for most people. And
Yeah.
so, as we're going into this conversation about Plutonian energy, I think it's helpful to think about the mythology of Pluto, the lord of the underworld, his
Mhm.
semi abduction of Persephone, bringing her to the underworld as well, and all of this energy around are we as humans, as a collective, at a point to be doing this deeper transformational work where we, take a tiny thing the size of an atom and completely transform it into a giant explosion of
Mm,
energy. And this is
right.
what Pluto does. It takes the small and turns it into something ginormous, and it transforms the tiny energy in an atom into the incredible explosion of the atomic bomb.
Well,
I
and
will
in the
pause for a
30s,
second because I have been rolling.
no, that's okay. That's good. Guys, I apologize. Michael is off work today. Hold on.
It's okay. It's okay. I will continue rolling. Oh, and I love the pumpkin or squash that's behind Christy. She's so good about having beautiful objects around her that are seasonal and resonant. I love that so much.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I wanted to address a few. Well, first of all,
Yeah.
we thought it would be a good idea to put a cat door on our pocket door. It's a bad idea. And
Uh-huh.
now the dogs can open the doors easier. So, whereas before I used to be able to lock them away, they've now figured out if they just paw at the door a little bit, that they can pop that
Uh-huh.
latch. So, I'm going to have to figure something else out. But back to the topic at hand. So, thank you guys for being patient with me. What I wanted to say was, first of all, as a fellow Kansan who trips upon amazing things all the time, must be a Kansas thing. So, yay to the guy that discovered Pluto in Kansas. Love it. But talking about the time frame that we're looking at with the 1930s, you guys, that's right as Hitler was coming into power. That's right. I mean,
Mhm.
1933 was when concentration camps really got, really became a thing. World War II really
Mhm.
became a thing. There was a lot of really difficult things that we as a society had never faced before. We had had
Mhm.
people who had tried to conquer the world, like Genghis Khan and various Roman people and things like that. But it had never looked like it did at this point in history. This was
Mhm.
and remains to be one of the most abhorrent, horrific times in history. So when you're talking about dealing with the proverbial gates of hell, I mean that's really kind of where we were.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it shows that energy. But what I love about the story of Persephone, and I love Persephone. I actually,
Mm.
one of my guitars was named Persephone. I loved it.
Oh, that's so
But
much.
what I love about Persephone's story is, yes, she was unwilling to go, right? But she then seen the benefit of doing that type of work, and
Mhm.
and she found her place in it, and she found,
Mhm.
if this is where I'm going to be, how do I be comfortable in it? How do I do that? And I think really that's such a beautiful theme for us too. If it's here and it's showing up and we're forced with it, to face it, how do we make it good? How do we
Mm.
find that, that little corner of for ourselves? So I think
Yeah.
it I never thought of well, I didn't know when Pluto was discovered. I knew it was later, but I didn't realize it was around that time. Which, like I said, historically really got me thinking. And you're like, is
Hmm.
society ready? Well, we're at a point in time now where society is ready to look at some of these deeper issues, whether we want to or we don't. Uh, we're having to is kind of where we're at with it. So I love that you brought that up because it really does kind of give us a nice intro there.
Yeah, and
Energy.
it's interesting too, thinking about how for most of history, there was no such thing as therapy.
Mhm.
You know, it's not like people went to therapy and processed things and integrated things and healed from things. And I do
Right.
feel like there's a strong resonance between Pluto and uh, therapy, depth psychology, shadow work, a lot of those themes where we are going in and going many times way back in our lives
Mhm.
to deal with things we never fully healed from.
Yeah.
And there's something very, how do I want to put this? Um, on the one hand, we are very fortunate to be living in a time where we can worry about more than just surviving, and
Yeah.
we're not worried about, necessarily dying of starvation during the winter or some of those
Right.
things that earlier people worried about. But at the
Mhm.
same time, that privilege comes with some responsibility of,
Mhm.
okay, it's almost like we have the space to do this deep work and
Mhm.
to heal ourselves and help others
Mhm.
heal. Um, and so I do view Pluto, there is a strong responsibility component to it where yeah, we sort of as a collective society, um and again, um this is not meant to overgeneralize. There are people who are still
Right.
dealing with just surviving, you know, but as
Right.
a collective there are more of us who have the space to think beyond surviving. And
Right.
so for us it is, we have been given that space. It's not just to sit on a beach and sip Mai
Mhm.
Tais. There really is a responsibility to do something with that space we have been
Yeah.
given. And so I do often, this is not 100% of the time, but often when I'm doing readings and Pluto is very prominent in a person's chart, they either have been through a lot of therapy, sometimes they are a therapist, sometimes they are working
Mhm.
in healing professions, helping others heal. But there seems to be a really strong correlation between a strongly placed Pluto and spending a great percentage of one's life in these deep, fundamentally deep topics.
Oh, interesting. I think it's amazing how you can just look at somebody's chart and
I
see
know.
so much and even just their experiences, and it helps us to understand each other. That's like this month we're going to be
Hmm.
talking about our archetypal energies. It's another way to help understand people, and this is a big one because I think there's a lot of, when we think of Pluto and Scorpio, before I had a good understanding, I was like, oh, that's a lot of emotion I can't deal with. I don't know what to do with myself, and just get me through it. So I can, I was Persephone in the I'm not eating here because that means I'm stuck here. So nope, I'm digging in my heels and
No
stubborn.
pomegranate for you.
No, no, no. But even as I've been looking at the archetypal energies and talking to you about the Pluto energies, I see the really profound benefit of doing this work and how tricky it is because it is some of the trickiest work. And I've got a lot of stuff for me even coming up with Pluto already. And I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
well, girl, you better buckle in. But
Yeah.
for me, it's like raw emotion. It's just this stuff that just keeps coming up, and it's like, where is this coming from, and why is this happening, and what is it? And I realize that it's just a deeper level of healing that I need to do, that I'm
Yeah.
ready to do at this point. And
Yeah.
universe is like, all right, come along.
Yeah.
So,
And I think one thing that's really interesting is because we live in a time, we'll see if this changes when Neptune moves into Aries. I sort of suspect parts of it will shift, but we live in a time right now where the esoteric is kind of cool.
mhm,
Like the witchy stuff is kind of cool, esoteric astrology stuff, tarot, kind of
mhm,
cool. Um,
mhm.
and I on the one hand, I love that because obviously
Right.
this is stuff that really interests me, and I love that there are
Yes.
more people interested in it, and it's, less weird than it has been
Mhm.
at various points in the past.
Right.
But at the same time, um, I feel like Pluto has become almost like I don't know, like almost like a symbol of kind of like a sexy witch or something, where it's like, ooh,
Oh,
Pluto energy, ooh, deep,
right.
Um,
Right, right.
and somehow I feel like there's this mystique around Pluto, and Pluto does rule
Mhm,
Scorpio, and some of the signification, and it also has a resonance with the eighth house in astrology, which is things like, death, sex, kind of like the big energies.
right,
And I think there
right.
has been almost like an over dramatization of some of that. And it's
Mhm,
not an over dramatization from the perspective of Pluto's power. Pluto
right.
rules some really powerful stuff,
Mhm.
like death, like the underworld. Um,
Right, right.
but at the same time, if we're really loving Pluto energy, we're probably not doing it right. In full transparency to everybody here, like I would love to say, oh, Pluto is so fun. You just go really deep. It's really sexy. But in fact, when we hit those points in our soul where we just feel
Mhm,
raw and
mhm,
triggered and
mhm.
unhealed and
Mm,
yeah, raw feels like the right word to me. It's like,
yeah,
welcome to Pluto. And
right.
so the benefits Pluto offers of working with Plutonian energy are profound. This
Mhm,
is where people heal from
mhm,
incredibly traumatic, difficult circumstances that
mhm.
for all of human history, they may not have known how to heal from or had the space to work
Right.
through how to heal from those things. So that is incredible.
Mhm,
Um, but it's not a quick process, and it's not a
right.
sexy process. And it really does involve the transformation. And
Mhm.
I know, all of us, including me, love the symbol of the butterfly, the caterpillar
Right,
into the butterfly as this amazing, beautiful
right.
transformation, which it is.
Yes.
But when the caterpillar goes into its cocoon, it basically dissolves into goo, people. It dissolves into goo before it reforms as a butterfly. It is a
Yeah.
messy, not sexy process.
Right,
It's not just
right,
like it goes in and woo, here are my wings. I'm so
right,
gorgeous. I'll just
right.
fly away now. It is a real transformational process, very
Mhm,
messy to get that
mhm.
butterfly, coming out at the other end. And so, all of us have the opportunity to work with Pluto. Pluto, it exists. We've discovered it, as
Mhm,
humans, and it will touch our lives, all of us,
mhm.
but not all of us will transform in the same way as Pluto
Right,
touches us. If Pluto
right,
touches parts of our chart and we're like, ooh, I don't like that. I don't like seeing that part of myself. I don't want to deal with that.
right,
Um,
right.
we're not really engaging with the energies enough for Pluto to really transform us. And
And I
and this is a tricky thing. Not everybody is ready to heal everything all at once. We have to kind of
right.
pick when and how,
Mhm.
we are ready to work with Pluto energy. But
Mhm.
yeah, I do just want to say for everybody, I s- Pluto energy is where we become a better soul. Genuinely,
Mhm.
genuinely. But pick your time. Don't walk into the Pluto work lackadaisically.
Yeah.
Um, it will feel like a slap in the face when Pluto then engages with you. Make sure you are ready to show up and do the messy, deep work.
And that's honestly where I'm at right now. I have been getting some of those slaps in the face. And you guys, it's hard because it comes out of nowhere. Things that you thought you had healed, that you thought were okay, is now, like, for me, stuff is so triggering. Part of it is just my age. I'm a woman of a certain age. There's certain things going on. But this is deeper than that. This is those really raw things. It's like, I, to give you a very graphic example, it's just like somebody reached down inside of me to and just pulled it up and was like, okay, here. And that's how it feels. And so as you head into this, and I encourage you guys to get well, I always encourage everybody to journal, but get a special spiritual journal just for this, because this stuff, guys, I can tell you what's coming up for me is like stuff to do with my mom, stuff to do with my
Mm.
kids, stuff to do with my grandkids, stuff to do with the way I parented, the way I was parented, all of this stuff that I really was never ready to face. And I don't know that I'm 1,000% ready to face it now, but it is coming up to the point that it's like, okay, I guess this is where I'm at. So let's just get to getting, like, how do we do this? And so, I want to encourage you that if it feels anything like what I've been feeling lately, it's going to be very overwhelming and intense, and just kind of like, where did this come from? Why is this coming up? Like, things that wouldn't normally make you feel a certain way are kind of having that effect on you. So I really want to encourage you, get a journal where you can really just, and get a nice lined journal. Sometimes I'm like, get one that you can be creative in. No, this is like, get a lock and a key and a journal with lines, and just write, because the stuff, it's very difficult. Cosmic says this is super valid for me right now for legal reasons.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of, it's just tough. And then it affects the people around us. Because when
Yeah.
we're that triggered, um and we don't know why. Even the most, like, Karena and I both, I'm sure Karena gets triggered. I know I do. And you have to kind of get a hold of yourself first. It's kind of like a horse. You got to gather it up and then look around and be like, okay, what happened? And that's kind of what I find myself having to do, is just gather myself up and be like, okay, what is this? And I end up crying blobs in laundromats at 9 o'clock. And but
I
it's
mean,
what I think it's what it looks like, isn't it?
yeah. Well, yeah, and not to bring too much into this, but I know we've mentioned this on your YouTube channel
Yeah, yeah.
before,
No,
but
no, go for it.
you're going to have Pluto going over your sun, because Pluto
Yeah.
is moving into Aquarius next week. Your sun is in Aquarius. Pluto moving over your sun. Some people don't experience that at all in their lifetime. Pluto takes
Hmm.
248 years to go through the whole zodiac.
Hmm.
So if we say the average lifespan, I'm just going to say is 80 years, only about a third of people will experience Pluto going over their sun in their lifetime. And for
Oh,
some
wow.
of those people, it might be when they're, like 1 or 2 years old, where they don't have a lot of agency or room to really transform. And
Hmm.
so, it's very unique that you are experiencing this, at this point in your life. Um,
Hmm.
and so what am I trying to say? Everyone here, we will all experience this shift of Pluto being in Capricorn since 2008, fully moving into Aquarius for the last time next week, November 19th. We will all experience that. But for Christy, and for other people who have strong placements in Aquarius, this is going to be stronger. You know, our sun, someone mentioned earlier, the ego. And the sun is our ego, it is our self. And so when we've got Pluto moving over our self, that's
Yeah.
like we're transforming ourselves. That, you know,
Yeah.
that's a pretty drastic change. So yeah,
Mhm.
I totally see, Christy, where you would be feeling it particularly strongly.
Yes. Yeah. And I seen Kim also said some stuff coming up for me seeing people being bullied. That's
Yeah.
so tough.
And, you know, Pluto is moving from Capricorn into Aquarius.
Mhm.
And I'm going to talk just really quickly at a very high level about what Pluto in some of the signs has looked like. And Kim, I think this will kind of explain how this is showing up for you. So, Pluto is this transformative energy. But before we can transform, any of us individually or collectively, we have to sort of see a problem, you know. And
Mhm.
like Christy, you mentioned stuff coming up for you from your childhood. It's like that stuff has to come up before you can even think about healing from it and being transformed as a result. So what tends
Right.
to happen with Pluto in a sign is we see the underbelly of what is in that sign, and
Yeah.
we fear what is in that sign, and then that becomes the vehicle for our transformation. So, for
Mhm.
example, in the 80s, Pluto was in Scorpio, and Pluto in Scorpio, that corresponded with the rise of the AIDS epidemic, and so many
Mhm.
people being afraid of sex and physical intimacy because of what could happen. And it, you
Right.
know, at the
Right.
time, it was all very new. They didn't know exactly how it was transmitted, and so there was a fear around having sex.
Right.
Then we move into Pluto in Sagittarius, from the mid 90s through kind of the late 2000s. And Sagittarius is a lot about philosophies, religions, higher ideals. And we saw
Mm.
the underbelly of that too. We had things like 9/11, where, you
Yeah.
know, how far will people go, you know, for the ideals that they believe in.
Mhm.
And then we moved from there in 2008. Pluto moved into Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of governments, structures, financial institutions, sort of
Mm.
the structures that make our society go around. And we immediately saw the banking crisis in 2008. And
Yeah.
the economy has just been a roller coaster. Well, Pluto has
Yeah.
been in Capricorn. And so many people are afraid of, you know, what do I do with my money? Can I trust
Mhm.
this government? Can I trust this bank? You know, there's
Mhm.
been a lot of fear around that. And it doesn't
Right.
mean any of these things are bad, right? You know,
Right.
sex is not bad. Philosophy, religions, ideologies are not bad. Government
Right.
systems and structures are not bad. But
Right. Right.
with any of these big topic things in our lives, there's an underbelly, there's a shadow side. And Pluto brings out that shadow side. And
Mhm.
there's a fear associated with seeing that shadow side. And then we work to transform as a result.
Mhm.
Um, and then, yeah, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, Aquarius is the sign of society and
Mhm.
social good and social
Mhm.
justice. And
Mm.
so we are moving towards a, um, and Aquarius also, because its modern ruler is Uranus, it's associated with technology and, you know, whatever is new, you know, the new exciting thing, not the old boring thing, the new
Right.
exciting thing.
Right. Right.
And I think it was so closely aligned. I think it was the week that Pluto first moved into Aquarius. Chat GPT got released, their big new OpenAI's big new version.
Oh. Uh-huh.
And so, you know, there's kind of this thought of what what does this new technology mean for society? Do we all lose our jobs? Does AI take over human work?
Hmm.
What does it mean to be a human and a member of society if most of what we can do, robots can do, or AI can do? Um, and so there's all of that sort of fear around what's coming with AI and how our society is going to be impacted. And then there are a lot of social justice things as well. And,
Yeah.
I think regardless of how each person here voted in the last election, I promise I'm not going to turn this into anything political,
No,
but
I know
there,
you're not.
we see a big shift in dynamic, right? And there's going to be a big shift in the new administration. And
Hmm.
whenever there are big changes and big shifts, there's this sense of uncertainty. What will the change bring? Humans, we struggle a little bit with change and uncertainty. We like things to feel more stable. I know what my job is. I know where I'm getting my food. I know, I've got these good relationships. And so this definitely is bringing uncertainty
Hmm.
um, into our society. And this is not true just in the US, a lot of the European countries as well have had big government changes and shifts. And so there is this sense of um, the world is changing, society is changing, norms are changing, and there's fear around that, regardless of which, again, which candidate people voted for. There's a sense of, this is change, this could be scary, I don't know what this looks like. And this is all happening
Right.
within the scope of AI and, these big technological changes. um, and so it's almost like, yeah, what does our society look like after this? Do we have real conversations with other humans? Or does our
Right.
societal stuff look like we're talking with AI? I've
Yeah.
seen several articles where teenagers, who are especially susceptible to this, have been talking mostly with AI chatbots online,
Mm.
and they're kind of becoming increasingly socially isolated because they just want to talk to their AI chatbot.
Yeah.
Um, so, and that doesn't mean AI is bad. There are
Right.
multiple things AI can be used for.
Hmm.
But again, we're sort of looking at this, what does society look like after all
Yeah.
of this? And so this is sort of this preview we're getting into Pluto and Aquarius. Um, and it's interesting, Cosmic is calling out, AI did her astro chart, can't interpret it properly. Um, yeah, it's interesting. I played with ChatGPT and asked it astrology questions. It was honestly better than I expected it to be.
Mm.
Um, um, I, you know, it's that tricky thing of, that all the data it's getting though is from the blogs of astrologers. So there are
Yeah.
definite, for all content creators, there are some copyright issues, because definitely
Right.
AI does not invent anything. It kind of aggregates and copies. But I have played with it, to see what it can do. And even that, there's kind of the question, there are so many content creators in the world of all different types, whether it's writers or YouTube videos like this one, or articles, like the newspapers and everything are
Mhm.
really struggling right now. um,
Yeah.
and there's this sense of, if I'm a human and I'm outputting my whatever my creative content is into the world, and all of the AI models from big tech are kind of gobbling all of that up, making it
Hmm.
unrecognizable as mine, so they don't have to pay me any copyright stuff, and then
Right.
publishing it. I think this also has huge implications for our society. Do
Hmm.
people stop publishing content? Is everything
Right.
behind a paywall because people only want to give their content to individual people who they trust, who have paid for
Hmm.
it, rather than making it publicly available?
Yeah.
Again, I think Pluto in Aquarius is going to be exploring all of these themes of how what are the darker underbelly sides of technology and their
Mhm.
implication on our societies. And when Kim was mentioning um, things coming up for them around seeing people bullied, that's such a social thing too. You know,
Right.
the most beautiful version of Aquarius is fighting
Mhm.
for social justice and fighting for those who are bullied and underdogs of the systems.
Yeah.
And so, you know, again, and we're seeing that in many ways too. Now, maybe content creators,
Mhm.
you know, are maybe the underdogs of
Mhm.
society. And yeah, there's so many implications of what Pluto in Aquarius will look like. It's never, you know, just this one simple little thing. There are themes, but we're kind
Yeah.
of seeing where people's fears are right now. They're around these, like, what is society going to look like? There are big changes in governments all over the world. There are huge technological changes with things like AI. What does that mean for my job, my ability to do my work, my ability to bring value? Um, and yeah, we're starting to see these themes. And no deep Pluto work can be done quickly. So Pluto
Right.
stays the longest in of any of the other planets in the zodiac signs.
Mhm.
And so it will be, once it moves fully into Aquarius, no more retrogrades back into Capricorn, on November 19th. It will be there until 2044.
Mhm.
So 20 years we have to go deep. So this will not be
Mhm.
something we accomplish in 2024 or 2025 or 2026. This is kicking off
Right.
a long, slow process, because this
Mhm.
is really, healing is never quick. We have to give it time. And in so many ways, we have to heal one step before we can unlock the next step. And
Right.
so, for everybody, I would really just encourage all of us, don't try to rush this. Especially
Right.
for people like you, Christy, who have strong Aquarius placements. There's going to be that sense of, like, I got to get all of this fixed right now. Oh my gosh. Um,
Yes.
Totally. I feel like your impulses are right on, but give it time, because
Right.
Pluto is slow moving. And I love how you mentioned that you felt like some of were these were themes you thought had already healed, and then they're coming up. The
Mhm.
beauty of Pluto is when we heal the Pluto way, very slowly,
Mhm.
very deliberately and intentionally, that's when we're actually healed. And
Right.
so it's not uncommon, for Pluto to bring up themes where we thought we healed, but we kind of did a quicker process, or we did more of a surface level process. Maybe it only took
Right.
1 year instead of 20. Um,
Right. Which
but,
is where
you
I
know,
am.
Pluto, right, which is where many of us are. So, yeah, this is going to be, a slow process. This is a marathon, not a sprint,
Right.
for all of us. So, absolutely identify the themes, start taking action, but please don't feel frustrated if things aren't changing right away,
And I
because
want to
this
say
is
too,
step by step by step by step.
and I want to say too, if we even just as you were talking, it made me think about the tarot class we recorded about the suit of uh, swords, which is represented
Yes.
by Aquarius. And you guys take out your tarot decks when you get done here and look at that story. It's not an easy
Mm.
story. It's very sharp, it's very pointed, it's difficult. And some of the 10 cards are very beautiful, like the 10 of Pentacles, which we also just talked
Mhm.
about, very beautiful. 10 of Cups, very beautiful. 10 of Swords is y'all are stabbed in the back, right? So it is a difficult thing. And I think for me, what I'm trying to keep in mind is that it is going to be sharp because I'm sharp
Mm.
and it is going to be sharp. And these things, as you said, the sun moving over, um, through my Pluto moving over my sun. There we go. Let's get it right. Um, it is going to be. this thing. And, like, what a journey to have when you're almost 50 years old. I'll be 49 in February.
Mm,
So I've had life ahead of me, or, behind me. I've got life ahead of me. So this is kind of like the existential midlife crisis of like, what does this look like? Who am I? And is
mm,
this person all that it is? And I found that a lot of things really that in even things that I did just spend a couple years on. But Karina, you're right. I tend to be like, okay, next. Okay, next.
check.
Okay, next. And I get really excited when I can do all of that. But in my heart, I know that's not what this is, because the pain I feel from what's coming up, it's like it can't be done in a couple years. it
Mhm.
it now maybe like one little part of it will be, but this is a much bigger story. um I feel like there's a decade of me that's really healed, but then there's like three that isn't. And it's like
Yeah.
those three, and seeing it, just not just knowing it, but seeing it and feeling it, the feeling that comes with it, is I don't want to do this again. So I've got the mindset,
Mm,
like, let's do it right the
yeah.
first time. I
Yeah.
don't want to have to do it again, because I know what this is going to look like, because I know what's already been coming up for me. And it's not been the easy stuff. It's not been like the relationship with my dad where it's like, oh, that was easy. Okay, that was no, it's the relationship with my mom, which is
Mhm.
super complex at best.
Yeah.
And so, I just kind of, in case any of you are wondering, like, am I there? I kind of wanted to share that, and but also share the swords. Like, it is swordsy, it is sharp, it's fast, it's aggressive, it cuts going in, it cuts coming out, but it's intelligent. It's again, depending on community, there's been a couple of card decks that have, or a couple of cards that have come up that says, we are the people of love, from my mantra deck. And I love that,
Mm,
because I'm not going to be able to get through this without you guys, without love, without support and help, right? And I know that. And I want to encourage you guys, uh, not to try to get through it on your own either. I mean, I don't you think, like, having that kind of community of, okay, I'm struggling today,
yeah.
is important.
For sure. And as we've talked about, and as comes up in our tarot class, the air signs are very human,
Hmm.
social signs. The
Hmm.
other signs tend to not be. For example, with Cancer, you can be all in your emotions all by yourself. That can
Hmm.
happen. But the air
Right.
signs are inherently very social. And so with Pluto
Right.
being in Aquarius, and all of these things coming up for all of us, again, maybe for people with strong Aquarius placements more than others, but as this is coming up for all of us, it is really important to connect to the people around us and connect to our societies. Isolation is part of the problem, not part of
Yeah.
the solution with Pluto and
Right.
Aquarius.
I think Ben had a
Mhm.
question. Is it the best time to
Yeah.
learn completely new things?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. It looks like there's a couple of questions here. Um, is it the best time to learn completely new things? Um, it depends, Ben, which I know is everybody's least favorite answer. They want a yes or a no. Um, Aquarius absolutely represents the new. And
Mhm.
so there will be a strong focus over these next 20 years on the new. And for sure, that brings a lot of energy for all of us around learning the new. Like we're seeing this with AI, for example, right? Like
Mhm.
people are flocking to AI to learn all about, Open AI and Gemini and, like all of the new AI products from all of the big tech companies.
Mhm.
Um, so there will be it, we will all feel a pull towards learning completely new things. um but Pluto brings a transformation of whatever it touches. And so, I would say if you are learning completely new things, like things that are completely new now,
Mhm.
the one thing you can feel confident in is they will transform greatly over the next 20 years. So, whatever you are learning right now will become a knowledge of history on that subject, but not a, a working, useful knowledge of that subject.
Mhm.
Which that can be valuable too. Sometimes you want to say, I remember way back at the beginning, it was like this, and then it changed in this way, and then it
Yeah.
changed in this way. Um,
Yeah.
so, yeah, I'm certainly not saying it's a bad time to learn new things. The energy is absolutely there to encourage us to be interested in new things, but they are going to be changing. So, this won't be something where you can spend the next 2 years learning about a completely new thing and then just like, okay, now I know that. No, you know what is going to be the history of that
Right.
as it continues to transform. Um, and Cosmic asked, what comes after the age of Aquarius? Okay, so this is actually, I probably, thank you for that question, Cosmic. I feel like this is something I probably should have called out. It is true that Pluto is going into Aquarius. That is not the same thing as the age of Aquarius. Not the same. It's interesting that they overlap in this way and that the age of Aquarius started approximately when Pluto moved into Aquarius. We could call that synchronistic, but it's not the same. So, without going too much into the physics, because I know that bores people and then I lose people, as the Earth revolves on its axis, there is a slight wobble in the axis. So just like when you spin a top and the top of the top starts kind of, as it slows down, it makes bigger and bigger circles and then it kind of falls
Right.
over. So the Earth doesn't spin quite perfectly on its axis. The top of the Earth moves in this little circle, just like the top of a top. And that little top of the circle moves through the 12 consecutive zodiac signs. That is what defines what age we are in. And those ages are long cycles. For the Earth to make for the top of the Earth, topmost axis, to make one little circle around the whole zodiac takes about 25,000 years. So each of the age of like we are just exiting the age of Pisces. That lasted about 2,400 years. We are entering, scientists, astrologers, they all differ on exactly when the age of Aquarius started. I tend to think 2012 is closest to the correct time, but it's around now. In the scheme of 2,500 years, it's approximately now.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so the age of Aquarius has to do with that little wiggle in the Earth's rotation. If you want to Google this on your own and you can see diagrams of how this works, look up precession of the equinoxes on YouTube or in Google, or I'm sure you could ask ChatGPT or Gemini as well if you are AI inclined. I personally am not very AI inclined, but any of those can help you learn more about this. But we are in the age of Aquarius, but that does not correlate with Pluto entering Aquarius. And then, yeah, we are going to be in the age of Aquarius for approximately the next 2,400 years.
So buckle up, Aquarius is around for a little while, y'all. We ain't going
Yes.
nowhere.
And this is probably
We
also
have
why
arrived.
there's such a strong focus on Aquarian social energy right now, because we do have Pluto moving into Aquarius as we're basically entering the age of Aquarius. So there is a lot of Aquarius energy right now.
Witchy Trista, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm glad that you
Oh,
were
and don't
watching the
worry, you
free
can
will.
yes.
Yes, like how cool is that? I've got to say, guys, YouTube is not great about the notifications. If you just make sure that you've hit all, it kind of does the best. That's why Facebook, whenever I'm fixing to go live, I always put a post in Facebook. I tag everyone and I'm like, going live in 5 minutes. So that's another option. But I'm glad that you're here. So what is okay? So we've kind of talked about some of these scary things, right? Like, okay, well, we're basically walking through, kind of like if you're going through hell, keep on going. You might get out before the devil even knows you're there, right? Kind of walking through some stuff. It's going to be raw. It's going to be real. It's going to bring it up for us. This is not
Mhm.
fast moving. People like me, this is literally everything that is the hardest for me because it's not fast moving. It's healing. It's emotion. It's all of this other stuff. All of the things that I'm like, do we need that? But do we need that? But we do need that. So since we're standing at the doorways of this, what are some ways that we can use this to our benefit? What is, help me, Karina, what is something I
Yes.
can do
Oh, yes.
to
And
get through this?
hopefully, friends, I have not painted too bleak a picture because I
No,
have to
no.
honestly say I love Plutonian energy. Um, I love it with a depth that is appropriate for the Lord of the Underworld. um, so, what is so amazing to me about the Plutonian energy is um, this is genuinely where our souls make the big leaps. So,
Mm,
depending on people's beliefs, like if you believe in some sense of reincarnation or multiple lifetimes, this is where you make the big leaps. When
mhm,
you're really harnessing that Pluto transformative energy. If you
mhm,
just even believe in this one lifetime, this is when your soul takes a huge step forward in a
mhm,
way that some people's souls don't in each lifetime. And
mhm,
so there really is, yeah, I love this energy so much because if we zoom way out and look at things from the cosmic perspective, this is what growth looks like. This is really what we are here to do. This is the
mhm,
work we are here to do. And some things are just kind of filler, but this is
mhm.
the opposite of filler. This is the real stuff. So as far as
Right.
how best to work with this energy, um, yes. The first thing is um, with Pluto, whatever is coming up has to come up.
Mm,
And the more we try to push it down and ignore it, it's almost like trying to, push down a volcano that's trying to erupt. It's
mm,
it that is not going to work, and
right.
it almost makes it like you are outputting all this effort, like I'm gonna push this down, I'm gonna tamp this down,
Right.
and you're expending all this effort, but you're not going to stop a volcano, you're not going to stop an atomic bomb. This is the kind of energy we're dealing with Pluto.
Mhm,
So flowing with it rather than trying to push back on it or fight it.
mhm,
um, and Pluto also requires time and space.
mhm,
And that
mm,
means, if Pluto's transit through Aquarius is going to bring some stuff up for you. Maybe you've got Sun in Aquarius, like you do, Christy. Maybe you've got some heavy placements in Leo, which is opposite Aquarius. So Pluto is going to be opposite
mhm,
all of this energy. Um, Give yourself space. Don't pack your schedule to, completely full. Budget
mm,
time to have your morning meditation, your morning journaling. Um, but the more you're trying to do everything else, if you picture like the caterpillar who goes into the cocoon and is
mhm,
going to be to dissolve into goo and be reformed as a butterfly, if that caterpillar is also trying to get a promotion at work and foster 20 cats and, all of these other things in life.
Right.
It's just like, well, that might be a lot of extra stress when you're also being dissolved into goo. So, making sure not to pack yourself too full, but give
Right.
yourself time and space to do the processing that Pluto
Mhm.
requires.
Mhm.
And give yourself a lot of grace, because
Mhm.
Pluto does give you a lot of grace and bring a lot of grace. And there is this sense of, as Pluto, uh, as it transforms, uh, sometimes I feel like we tend to think of Pluto in almost that disciplinarian Saturn way of like,
Mhm.
okay, now's the time. We got to deal with our thing. Like, okay, you got to deal with it now. Whatever was messed up before, you have to fix it. And
Mhm.
Pluto is full of grace. The
Mhm.
the Lord of the underworld understands the difficulties you're facing and what is
Mhm.
being asked of you. And nothing about this transformation is coming from a place of discipline or punishment or, oh, you screwed things up and now you have to fix it. It's it's like, just like the caterpillar did not screw up and now they have
Right.
to become goo to be a butterfly. It's like this is an
Right.
opportunity. This is
Mhm.
almost, I don't quite want to call it a reward because that sounds just crazy. Who wants that kind of reward? It's your gold medal.
So
But there is this sense of when Pluto has these major moments in our lives, it's the sense of our soul is at the place where we can deal with it. And that
Mhm.
doesn't mean it will be easy. It's never going to be easy. Taking a
Right.
step up sort of our soul's growth ladder is never easy. But
Right.
it's like this sense of Pluto knows you are ready and
Mhm.
has all the grace and support there. And again, is not going to rush you through any step of the way. This is very much a take your time, rest whenever you can, take breaks when you need it, only process what you are able to when you are able to. And so just, yeah, giving yourself the grace, the time, the space, because Pluto definitely is. And recognizing that, yeah, even though sometimes these Pluto transits, they can feel almost like a punishment because they're so
Mhm.
intense, they're
Right.
actually a gift because
Mhm.
they are telling us, you know what? From the universe's perspective, you're ready to move up a level. And
Right.
I don't know why I'm picturing this, maybe just because the energy is heavy and I'm looking for something lighter, but I'm picturing like Tetris. I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know if anyone remembers Tetris, but and there are many games like this, but it's like, you play the level and you win the level and you're like, I'm so cool. I'm so good at this. And then you get to the next level and everything moves down faster and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa,
Right.
whoa, 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 whoa.
Right.
And that really feels to me like Pluto energy, where you're essentially
Uh-huh.
taking a step up. Great,
Uh-huh.
you conquered the previous level, you figured it out,
Right.
but now everything is
Right.
falling from the sky more
Right.
quickly. You're like, oh my gosh, what do I do with this? This is really difficult. So, again, it's almost like by being presented with these Pluto challenges, it's
Mhm.
indicative that you are moving up a step and never lose
Mhm.
sight of that. That what you are, you're not just moving through something,
Mhm.
you are moving towards something. You are moving towards that next step of soul growth. And I think because Pluto transits are so long,
Mhm.
it depends on the sign, but anywhere between 12 and 30-ish years, Pluto will stay in the sign. On average, it's
Right.
20. This time it's going to be almost exactly 20. But
Mhm.
in 20 years, we
Yeah.
tend to forget that it is just an era. It's just a
Yeah.
cycle. And it
Mhm.
tends to feel like, no, this is the norm. If something has been a certain way
Right.
for 20 years, we just think, no, this is how it is. And so we
Right.
lose sight of the fact that we are moving towards something at the end.
Mhm.
And we start to
Mhm.
just feel like, oh, this is life and life sucks.
Mhm.
And so always keeping in mind we're moving through something towards something. This is not, even though this might feel like the new normal, especially as the years go by, this is
Mm-hmm.
just a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And for everyone who is really impacted by this Pluto transit, again, strong Aquarius placements, strong Leo placements, there is this sense of there is another side. You're coming out the other
Right.
end, and everyone I know, because for everyone who had strong Capricorn placements, you
Uh-huh.
all already went through this over the last 14 years, Pluto moving over your sun. And I've
Right.
talked with people and done readings for people who have who had the sun in Capricorn and Pluto moving over their sun over the last 14 years, and all of them have been so thankful for the transformations that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it didn't mean it was easy, but they feel
Right.
so grateful because they couldn't be where they are. They couldn't be the person they are now without having gone through that. And so,
Right.
not, as much as possible, working with this Plutonian energy, don't lose track of what you're working towards. Don't start feeling like, oh, this is just my life. Year in and year out, difficulty, difficulty, difficulty.
Right.
No,
Right.
it's a long cycle from
Right.
our human understanding, but it is a cycle. And I do
Mm-hmm.
not know one person, not one person, who has had Pluto pass over their sun, their moon, an important part in their chart, who has said, well, I would rather have just not done that. Nobody says
Right.
that, you know?
Right. Well,
So there is this sense of transformation.
and it is true. And to go back to your Tetris thing, so I thought that was really funny because all of us people who played Tetris when we were younger, we can pack a grocery cart, can't we? We can pack the back of our trunk because
This
we had
is so
Tetris to help
true.
us.
I'm
So
actually very proficient at this. Yes.
I am too. So that's encouragement for me, just to know that, hey, at the end of it, what I might get is to be able to pack the grocery cart a little better. I know I'm going to get more than that, but
Yes.
you
Yes.
know,
But you
it's
will also get that.
right, and I think it's important to be able to kind of laugh about it a little bit, but to know, be grace. And what I love that you said was the Lord of the underworld understands what's being asked of you. Because how many times in our lives have we really felt like, does anybody even understand what they're asking of me? I mean,
Mm,
I have felt that way. I've looked at various people in my lifetime and just kind of stood there and went, do you get what you just asked me to do? And so
yeah.
knowing that there's that understanding, I think is a little more graceful because it's like, okay, this is going to be hard, but here. And so for me, kind of how I'm feeling, this is just me. When I made my soul contract, whatever that looks like, because we forget what we've made, like
Yeah.
this is it. This, like, I am here at this time to do this, to learn what I need to do. And I think for me, um if I can learn this powerful lesson in this lifetime, then I get
Mm,
to take that wisdom and knowledge with me into the next lifetime, and I don't have to maybe do it again.
yeah.
but but more
Yes.
importantly, I get to take that wisdom with us, because the wisdom
Hmm.
that you bring from previous lives, or if you just believe in this one life, the wisdom from your
Hmm.
younger years, you don't lose that.
Hmm.
It goes
Right.
with you. And you can't, uh as I've been studying the archetypal energy, you can't be a healer if you don't have something to heal from. You can't be a teller if you don't have truth to tell. You can't be, like, whatever it is that you feel you are, or to be true. So if I'm here to be a teacher and a healer, I can't do that if I don't learn lessons and if I don't heal.
Mm,
Otherwise, I'm just up here saying the same old things over and over. And that
yeah.
is, I think that's profound, when you can look at it in that way of like, okay, well, the whole beginning part of this, the first 48 years, has been leading up to this moment right here. It's probably a good thing I didn't
Mhm.
know it. Because
I
who knows
think
what I
that
would have
all
done,
the time. Yeah, about
you
many,
know?
many things that happen in our lives. Yeah, it's almost
Right,
like if we knew how hard it was going to be, we probably would have found a way to opt out.
right,
So it's,
right,
it's good that, the universe knows we shouldn't know what our soul signed up for. Um,
right.
just take it
No,
as it comes, and yeah.
yes, but I find it beautiful that you can find some beauty in it. So what do we have going on? Is there more questions
Mm.
here
Yeah,
or
maybe a couple. So Cosmic said, this is what Pluto and Libra does for me, apparently deep interest in relationships, a desire for fairness and equality. Um, yeah, totally. I wouldn't say that's the only thing Pluto and Libra does. I think there's, because Pluto is such a deep, intense energy, it's pretty hard to boil it down to like four sentences. Um, I see a lot of really interesting other Pluto and Libra stuff, which Pluto and Libra corresponds with most of Gen X and then a little bit of millennials. So
Mm,
there's quite a bit I see in that generation, just like with all of the
okay.
generations, Pluto and Leo, Pluto and
Mhm.
Virgo. Um, but certainly, yes, a deep interest in relationships, desire for fairness and equality. Yeah, if we wanted to do like the coffee mug version, like what you can fit on a
Right,
coffee mug, totally
right.
cosmic. Yeah. And, yeah, interested in social justice and creating a more harmonious world. Yeah, totally. And there's deeper we could go on all of this stuff again, but yeah, absolutely. And cosmic, the sun in Capricorn does mean you are a Capricorn by birth. And if you are a Capricorn, um, it depends on exactly where in Capricorn your sun is. If your sun is at like 2 degrees of Capricorn, you would have gone through Pluto moving over your sun back around 2008, 2010. If your sun is at like 29 degrees of Capricorn, then Pluto is going over your sun right now as we speak. So it depends a little bit on where in Capricorn your sun is, but definitely sometime over the last 14 years, 14,
Mm,
16 years, um, Pluto moved over your sun.
right, right. I
And
I
Ben,
love
what is he
Ben.
saying? You can't be the one.
I love that he's like, if you want some of my exemption forms, let me know.
Yeah, we're all like, opt out of Pluto and Aquarius, please. But I do feel like going back, Christy, to kind of how do we best deal with this energy? If we look around at our world, um,
Mhm,
no matter what people's individual beliefs are, I think we can
mhm,
all agree there are things in our society that need to be changed, that need to be fixed. We see so
mhm,
much division right now in this country, all around the world. We
mhm,
see disagreements and fighting and hatred. And if we
mhm.
think about the most beautiful version of Aquarius, it is social harmony, social good.
Right.
And,
Mhm,
if we think about what it takes to move
mhm,
towards that, there probably are some pretty big multi-year, maybe couple decade transformational processes that need to happen. But
yeah.
what a worthy goal.
Right.
And, so if before humans knew about Pluto and had the awareness of working with Pluto,
Mhm,
incredibly difficult stuff still happened, but we
right.
often couldn't use it to really help our soul develop. We had to just get through it and live with it. And then
Mhm,
many people had to die and not ever have it resolved. And
right.
so we are in a time when we can look at some of the things that just aren't right, whether they are in our own lives or in society, and say, okay, now we have the awareness. We are at
Mhm.
the place in, world history, in our own lives, where we can approach this and do something different. And is it a long, difficult journey? Yes. Like if we want to transform society and bring more love and peace, yeah, not an easy thing, but
Right.
who wouldn't want to try for that? Who wouldn't want
Right.
to take steps towards that? And, it's not like we can ever get there 100%, but any steps we take towards it, any transformations that happen are so valuable and so worth it. And so I
Mhm.
think, because Pluto is such a long lasting transit, it is so important. Never lose sight of what you're working for because
Right.
it's so brilliant, so
Mhm.
magnificent. We
Mhm.
aren't working towards we aren't looking for a prize that's like a toy in a Cracker Jack box. We're
Right.
kind of going
Right.
for the gold medal at the
Yes.
Olympics. We're going
Right.
for the big prize. And
Right.
yeah, I even think about that. I was watching some of there's a documentary on Simone Biles on Netflix,
Mhm.
and she's just this incredible gymnast, Olympic
Mhm.
medalist. And
Mhm.
so much of what keeps those Olympians going and motivated is thinking about that gold medal because they
Yeah.
go through years and years and years and years of training and training and training and training, and they
Mhm.
sacrifice so much. They
Right.
oftentimes can't really have strong relationships or friendships or have any external hobbies. They're kind of
Mhm.
spending all of their time on whatever their respective Olympic sport is. And
Right.
it would be impossible for them to keep going, keep training all of those years if they weren't looking towards that gold medal. And every morning they wake up, what am I working towards? I'm working towards that Olympic gold medal. And so I
Right.
think Pluto, very similar. It's like we need to wake up every day, not forget what we're working towards. If Olympic level athletes forgot what they were working towards, they would probably just get up in the morning and not train because at some point they get tired of training. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
again, keeping in mind what we are all collectively working for and fighting for is an incredible, brilliant, amazing prize. And even if we don't transform everything in our entire lives, that's
Mhm.
okay. Any
Right.
transformation we have during this time, whether it's societally or individually, takes us one step further along our
Yeah.
souls and collective's best path. So I think that's really key with the Pluto energy as well, is just keep your eye on the prize day in, day
Right.
out, year in, year out.
And that really resonates with me because if I know there's going to be a positive outcome, it is much easier for me to go through it. And this is maybe, I don't know. When I was pregnant with my oldest, I was only 19 and I was an unmarried single mom. And my dad, he told me, now you got to remember, my dad was a ranch cowboy, and he's like, when it comes time when you go into labor, don't scream, don't yell, don't cuss, don't throw a fit. Stay focused. Stay focused on your breath. And just remember, no
Mm,
matter what happens, at the end, your baby will be born and you will get to
mm,
hold your baby and you will have this. So it's not going to be fun in between, but conserve your energy, focus on the task at hand, and realize that at the end, you'll be fine. And that I have carried with me throughout my whole life because I can handle a lot as long as I know that it's going to end, that it's going to
mm,
end, that there is a benefit toward it. So even all of this is very uplifting to me because it is going to end in like 20 years, but it's going to end. And there is a benefit to it. So all of that is like that gold medal. So that makes perfect sense to me. And what is this,
Mm.
Christy and Karina, that everyone around me is either loud or wants my attention? What? Oh,
Whenever she
why
wants to
is
listen to
it?
us. Well, it's
Oh, okay.
okay, Tony, because it's
Oh,
all on YouTube. You can restream anything you miss,
right,
that's
right. Go back
okay.
and listen.
And I think it's also important, again, because Pluto has this grace and understands what is being asked of you and, of all of
Mhm.
us. Um, this is not a 20-year struggle. There will
Right.
be months,
Mhm.
months where they go by and nothing happened. And it's like those rest periods are
Mhm.
important to kind of recover. Nobody can just
Yeah.
go 20 years with no breaks.
Right,
So there
right.
will be times where, okay, this is a struggle point. This is a few months where I'm in it with the energies and I'm struggling. And then there will be
Right.
periods where 6 months, 8 months, nothing really happens. And you almost forget Pluto is in Aquarius, moving over
Right.
your sun. And so,
Right.
take those breaks when the universe offers them. When there aren't
Mhm.
crazy energies coming up, appreciate it, allow that as time to just let things integrate.
Yeah.
Um, so much of healing, there are active parts, 100%. There are active parts where we have to engage with the deeper hurts and traumas. However, there a lot of healing is giving things time. We do some
Yeah.
work and then we rest and integrate. And then we do a little more work and we rest and integrate. So I
Mhm.
also don't want people to feel like, all right, gear up for 20 years of struggling, like a 20-year battle
Right.
with, my
Right.
past traumas. Um, it will not be like that. Again, Pluto will give
Right.
us periods and times of grace and rest. And and the energies are feeling really strong right now because
Mhm.
Pluto is changing signs. And this is
Yeah.
typically what happens. Like, for example, when Pluto first moved into Capricorn, the financial crisis basically happened right away, right
Right.
then. And we were like, oh my gosh, is this what the next 14, 16 years are going to look like? And no, there were periods where
Right.
things felt more normal, felt more okay.
Right.
But usually when Pluto changes signs, it changes signs with a bang. And we've
Mhm.
already seen that with AI. Again, when Pluto first went into Aquarius, ChatGPT got released publicly to everybody. And
Mhm.
we were all like, what is this new thing? And how is it going to change our
Right.
lives? So,
Right.
I think for all of us, the energies are feeling really, really strong right now. But
Mhm.
when Pluto moves into Aquarius next week and we give it a couple of months for things to kind of settle down,
Mhm.
we are going to get back to a normal. It's going to be a different normal than the Pluto and Capricorn normal, but there will be a normal, kind of a homeostasis that we settle into. And it will be punctuated, these next 20 years of dealing with our healing, dealing with our trauma. But it's not going to be one giant concerted effort where we are pushing a boulder up a mountain for 20
Right.
years consecutively. So also, take the rests whenever you can. Whenever the universe
Yeah.
offers a rest, take the rest. And
Right.
also appreciate that that is not you slacking on your healing.
Mhm.
That is part of your healing. From the Pluto
Yeah.
perspective, nothing is rushed. Like that taking the time to integrate and kind of find your new balance with what you've learned so far, that is part of the
Mhm.
process.
And I
Yes,
love
Ben,
that.
like pineapple on pizza is normal.
And I love that
Yeah.
you're encouraging people to take time to rest when it's there, because that is definitely part of healing, because you can't just
Mhm.
work 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 all the time. I mean, we're not built for that. So
Right.
I love that. I love that kind of beautiful way. It seems like a very good way to end. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to that maybe I didn't let you share?
No, you let me talk and talk and talk and talk and talk,
No.
Christy. I feel like I've just been like da 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 for the last hour
No.
and a half. But yeah, no, I feel like everybody has we all have what we need to go out and tackle this energy. And just like you always say, Christy, you know, at the end of each of your shows, which I'm not going to preempt you, you will get to
Right.
say it. Um, but you know, we are going out and kind of conquering our worlds, moving our souls forward, taking that next evolutionary step up.
Yeah.
And so I personally am very excited about Pluto moving into Aquarius and all of us having this opportunity to move forward. This is what we're here for. This is the real work.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and again, as you mentioned earlier, Christy, reach out to others. Even if you feel alone during this time, or like you are the only person who is experiencing these, you know, roller coaster waves of challenge, you are not. We are all in this together. You know,
Right.
this is a good time to check on your sun in Aquarius friends and moon in Aquarius friends, because they're going to be feeling this extra strong, but
Mhm.
all of us are kind of going through this. So, you know, helping, you know, give ourselves time and space and grace, but also reaching out to others in our lives and making sure they feel supported and they are navigating this transition as well. And you know, it just feels like with Pluto being in Aquarius, the social human sign, there's really an opportunity for all of us. Did we lose Christy? There's really an opportunity for all of us to support each other and learn and grow and heal together.
And I love that. And you know, um I think it's very beautiful that, you know, we can each have our own healing journey, looking our own way, but yet still be on a collective journey. And so I think on that note, I think we'll go ahead and end today's discussion. I'm so glad that you guys were here, and
Thank you
you
all.
know, look for
Such
a
great
lot
comments.
more. Yes, and look for a lot more of these kinds of topics coming up. We're going to be talking about archetypal energy. We've got next Monday, we're going to be talking about how astrology can help us. We're, like I said, we're getting into archetypes on Friday. We're going to have our conversation with Amber. She is going to help us to reset our heart center. She's going to take us through a guided meditation to do that. And in the meantime, guys, get yourself a good spiritual journal to write this down. You can have more than one. And this might be the one that just really, really helps you. So, um, with that, I am going to say, you guys, I will see you tomorrow morning for the tarot reading. But in the meantime, go conquer your world as only you can. We'll be here to help you light the way. We'll see you soon.